There are moments in life when the winds rise up against you, when everything seems to shake, break, and fall apart. You pray and the heavens feel silent. You move forward and doors slam in your face. You look around and wonder, why me? Why now? But hear me today. The storm you're in is not a sign that you're forgotten. It's proof that you're chosen. The turbulence you're facing is not punishment. It's preparation. God does not allow storms to touch those who have no purpose. If the winds are fierce around you, it's because what's inside of you is powerful enough to threaten hell itself. The purpose of your storm. Every calling attracts conflict. The greater your destiny, the greater your opposition. You can't pray for purpose and then complain about pressure, because the two are married. Pressure is the evidence that heaven is building something inside you. When a tree is planted deep, the storm doesn't destroy it. It strengthens its roots. Likewise, your storm is anchoring your faith, stretching your endurance and maturing your spirit. You're not being torn apart, you're being built up for what's coming next. There's a divine pattern. Before every elevation comes agitation. Before the promise comes the pressure. Before the crown comes the cross. The enemy is not fighting you for where you are, he's fighting you for where you're going. The enemy's intention versus God's purpose. And the enemy hopes your storm will drown you, but God intends for it to develop you. The same waves that tried to pull you under will become the very platform that lifts you higher. Every delay, every disappointment, every detour, they weren't meant to destroy you. They were meant to direct you. God uses storms to strip away what can't go with you into your next season. People may have left, opportunities may have closed, but that's not loss, that's alignment. When you're walking in purpose, rejection is just redirection. Resistance is just refinement. The shaking in your life is heaven's way of saying, I'm not done with you yet. Remember who you are. Don't let the thunder make you forget your authority. Don't let the darkness make you doubt your destiny. You're not a victim of the storm. You are a vessel carrying divine purpose through it. When fear whispers, you can't handle this, remind it, I was made for this. When doubt says, this is the end, declare, this is the beginning. The storm is loud, but your faith must be louder. Your situation might look like chaos, but heaven is still in control. The same God who allowed the wind to rise has already commanded it to calm at the right moment. Call to action. So today, stand firm. Don't curse your storm. Conquer it. Don't run from the wind. Rise on it. Let this be the moment you stop seeing your struggle as punishment and start seeing it as proof. Proof that you've been chosen for something greater. When others see a storm, see your calling. When others give up, keep going. Because one day you'll look back and say, that storm didn't break me, it birthed me. So lift your head, strengthen your faith, and walk through the wind, because your destiny is waiting on the other side of this storm. When the storms of life start raging, when the pressure mounts and everything around you begins to shake, don't mistake it for failure. Hear me clearly. The greater the calling, the greater the conflict. You don't face this level of warfare because you're weak or forgotten. You're facing it because you've been marked by purpose. Heaven has placed something powerful inside of you, and the weight you feel is evidence of that greatness. The enemy doesn't waste his energy on people going nowhere. He targets those carrying something worth stealing. When you start to rise, resistance meets you at every level. The moment you make a decision to grow, distractions show up. The second you decide to trust God completely, chaos begins to stir. Why? Because the enemy wants to stop you before you step into your season. He knows that if you ever discover what you're truly capable of, if you ever wake up and realize how anointed, chosen, and resilient you are, you'll become unstoppable. So he sends storms not to destroy your calling, but to make you doubt it. That's why the greater the call, the louder the opposition. The storms that surround you are not random. They're spiritual confirmation that you're walking in the right direction. Think about it. Ships don't battle waves when they're tied to the dock. The waves only rise when the ship sets sail. The moment you start moving toward your destiny, winds begin to blow. But those winds aren't there to break you, they're there to prove you. There's a spiritual principle hidden in every struggle. The weight of your calling determines the weight of your challenges. God is not trying to crush you under the load. He's conditioning you for what you're built to carry. Every storm, every battle, every late night tear is part of your preparation process. Before you can handle the blessing, you've got to develop the backbone to sustain it. You can't be trusted with influence if you collapse under inconvenience. You can't lead nations if you panic when people criticize you. The storm you're facing is strength training for your spirit. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to live unbothered, while your life feels like a constant fight? That's because ordinary callings attract ordinary challenges, but extraordinary callings attract extraordinary storms. When God has set you apart, He won't let you stay comfortable. He'll allow life to stretch you, shake you, and push you beyond what you thought you could endure. It's in those pressure points that character is formed and faith is fortified. The conflict surrounding you is not a sign that something's gone wrong. It's a sign that something powerful is being birthed. When a woman is in labor, the pain increases right before the delivery. The same is true in the spiritual realm. The closer you are to what God promised, the harder the hits become. But if you give up in the middle of the pain, you'll never see the promise on the other side. Every challenge you face is a test of capacity. Can you keep trusting when it hurts? Can you keep believing when it doesn't make sense? Can you still praise when nothing seems to be working? Because it's not what happens around you that determines your destiny, it's what happens within you. God is stretching your inner strength because the next level of your calling requires a deeper level of endurance. You've got to understand, your storm is tailored to your destiny. The reason it feels heavy is because your purpose is weighty. You were never called to live small or play safe. You were born to carry something significant, to shift atmospheres, to influence generations. And before that kind of calling can be released, it must be refined. Storms reveal what comfort conceals. They expose your strength, your faith, your resilience, the very traits that make you unstoppable once the wind dies down. So when everything starts shaking, don't assume it's falling apart. Sometimes God shakes things up to show you what can't be moved. The greater the calling, the greater the conflict. Not because you're cursed, but because you're chosen. You're not under attack because you're doing something wrong. You're under attack because you're doing something right. The pressure you feel is proof that you're carrying power. And the opposition you face is a reflection of the impact you're destined to make. When life hits you with chaos, when doors shut, plans crumble, and the ground feels like it's disappearing under your feet, the first thought that hits your mind is, what did I do wrong? But here's the truth most people miss. Your storm is not punishment, it's preparation. What you're walking through right now is not meant to destroy you, it's designed to develop you. The pain, the waiting, the confusion, it all has purpose. You're not being buried, you're being planted. And when you're planted, darkness comes before growth. It's easy to praise God when the sun is shining, when life flows smoothly, when every prayer feels instantly answered. But true faith is forged when nothing makes sense, when you keep showing up, even when you can't see the results. That's where strength is born. That's where destiny begins to take shape. The storm you're in right now is your training ground. You're learning how to trust when there's no visible reason to, how to believe when everything looks impossible, how to keep walking when your legs are trembling. Don't confuse preparation with punishment. God doesn't waste pain. Every sleepless night, every heartbreak, every delay is working for something you can't yet see. The people who walked away, they were part of your pruning. The opportunities that fell through, they were protection in disguise. Sometimes what feels like rejection is God redirecting you to something better, something aligned with the destiny you can't yet comprehend. If God gave you what you're praying for right now, before you were ready for it, it would crush you. That's why the process feels heavy, because he's strengthening your foundation. You're asking for expansion, but he's building endurance. You're praying for success, but he's shaping your character. He knows the weight of your future, and he's not going to let you walk into it unprepared. Preparation seasons are uncomfortable because they strip you of everything that can't survive in your next level. Have you ever noticed that diamonds are formed under extreme pressure, and gold is purified by intense fire? The same is true for you. God refines his chosen through the heat of hardship. You may feel like everything is falling apart, but really, everything unnecessary is being burned away. The false confidence, the shallow faith, the dependence on people, all of it is being removed so that only strength and purity remain. When you feel like nothing's working, remember that seeds grow silently underground before breaking through the soil. There's movement happening beneath the surface of your storm that you can't see. The silence doesn't mean God is absent. It means he's working in secret. What looks like stillness is strategy. You're in the hidden phase of your purpose, the phase where God builds your roots before revealing your fruit. It's in preparation seasons that your true character is tested. Will you stay faithful when no one notices your effort? Will you keep giving your best when it feels like no progress is being made? Because how you handle preparation determines how you handle promotion. If you can't be consistent in obscurity, you won't be trusted with visibility. If you crumble under small pressure, you won't stand under big responsibility. So when life feels unfair, when everything inside you wants to quit, remember this isn't the end of your story. It's the middle of your making. The storm is the classroom where God teaches you endurance. Every test, every delay, every closed door is molding you into the person who can carry what's coming. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. Every storm that's shaking you right now is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and ready for the blessing that's already written in your name. When someone you trusted walks away, when the phone stops ringing, when doors that once opened easily suddenly slam shut, it's natural to feel like something's gone wrong. You start to question yourself, wondering, was I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? Why would God let this happen? But what if the very rejection that broke your heart was actually divine redirection? What if the people who left were never meant to walk with you into the next chapter of your calling? Rejection hurts, yes, but it often carries a hidden message from heaven. This isn't punishment, this is protection. Sometimes God has to close doors you would have kept open forever. He sees the conversations you never heard, the intentions you couldn't read, and the betrayals that hadn't yet been revealed. You see loss, he sees liberation. What feels like a setback is often a setup, a shift designed to push you toward purpose. The truth is, not everyone can go where you're going. The higher God takes you, the smaller your circle becomes. The elevation you're praying for comes with separation you weren't expecting. It's painful to lose what once felt permanent. You invested your time, your love, your faith, and suddenly it's gone. But here's the hook. You didn't lose it. It outgrew you. Or rather, you outgrew it. When your calling evolves, your connections must evolve too. God won't allow you to carry yesterday's people into tomorrow's promise if they can't handle the weight of your next level. He'll shake loose every attachment that threatens your alignment. You might not understand it now, but one day you'll look back and thank him for every door that didn't open, every person who walked away, and every plan that didn't work out. There are times when rejection feels like a storm that tears through your soul, but that storm is clearing the path ahead. Some doors don't close gently, they slam shut to make sure you don't wander back through them. And while you're standing in the hallway, frustrated that nothing's moving, God is building a new door down the hall that leads to your destiny. You don't see it yet because divine redirection rarely announces itself. It doesn't say, this is God moving you forward. It just feels like everything familiar is falling apart. But behind the chaos is a careful hand guiding every shift. Think of a GPS rerouting you when you take a wrong turn. The moment you miss an exit, the system doesn't yell, you failed. It simply recalculates a new route to the same destination. That's how God works with rejection. The people who turn their backs, the job that didn't hire you, the relationship that fell apart. It wasn't the end of your story, it was a divine reroute. He's not taking you away from purpose, he's taking you the right way to purpose. Sometimes we pray for clarity, but what we get instead is disconnection. We ask God to bless our path, and he starts removing people. We ask for open doors, and he starts closing them. That's because before he can give you what's next, he must clear away what's no longer meant for you. What's been removed is not rejection, it's redirection. You're being realigned with the destiny that fits the shape of your soul. You can't carry old weight into new seasons. You can't walk into purpose holding hands with the past. The people who once supported you may not understand the next phase of your journey. That's not betrayal, that's divine filtering. God knows the noise that could distract you, the influences that could delay you, and the relationships that could drain you. So in his mercy, he removes them before they remove you from your destiny. It hurts because your heart remembers the connection, but your spirit knows the separation was necessary. Every rejection is heaven's whisper saying, there's more for you than this. You may not see it now, but one day you'll realize that the door that shut didn't end your story. It directed you to the chapter you were born to live. Have you ever wondered why the moment you decide to rise, resistance shows up? Why the moment you start walking in faith, the attacks increase? It's because the enemy only fights what he fears. You're not being attacked because you're weak. You're being attacked because you're dangerous. Hell doesn't waste energy on people who pose no threat. The pressure, the conflict, the chaos, they're all proof that what's inside of you is powerful enough to shake the kingdom of darkness. You've got something within you that hell recognizes, even when you don't. And no, the enemy sees potential long before you do. He saw Moses as a deliverer while he was still a baby floating in a basket. He saw David as a king when he was just a shepherd boy with a sling. He saw you as a threat before you even discovered your purpose. That's why the attacks came early, before your confidence, before your platform, before your full strength. The enemy's goal is to stop you before you start. He wants to wear you down with discouragement, so you never discover how powerful you truly are. Here's the hook. If you've been under attack lately, it's not a sign of weakness, it's evidence of worth. The more pressure you face, the clearer the proof that you carry divine purpose. The attacks are custom made to the magnitude of your assignment. Ordinary people don't face extraordinary warfare. The weight of your battle reveals the size of your calling. The enemy's strategy is psychological. He wants to convince you that opposition means you're out of alignment. He whispers lies. If you were really called, life wouldn't be this hard. If you were chosen, God wouldn't let this happen. But the truth is the opposite. The moment you start moving in the right direction, resistance increases. That's not a sign you're off course. It's confirmation that you're on it. Storms gather around ships that are going somewhere, not those stuck at the shore. When you start walking in faith, breaking generational cycles, and refusing to bow to fear, hell takes notice. The enemy doesn't mind when you're silent, comfortable, or stuck, but the moment you decide to rise, everything around you begins to shake. That shaking isn't meant to destroy you, it's meant to distract you. Because if the devil can't defeat you, he'll try to drain you. He'll send confusion, chaos, betrayal, or exhaustion. Not to kill your purpose, but to silence your progress. He wants you to doubt what God already declared over your life. But let this sink in. The enemy's attacks are not random. They're targeted. They're intentional. They are proof that heaven has placed something inside of you that threatens hell's agenda. You carry light in a dark world, and darkness hates light because light exposes what it tries to hide. That's why you can't afford to let fear take over, because fear feeds the storm, but faith silences it. When you feel surrounded, remember this. Pressure is not a sign of defeat, it's a sign of destiny. The enemy sees what's coming before you do. He knows you're on the verge of a breakthrough, so he launches an all-out attack to stop you before the shift happens. That's why battles intensify right before blessings arrive. The closer you are to your next level, the harder the hit. But what the enemy fails to understand is that every time he attacks, he actually exposes your anointing. He reminds you that you were built for battle. You might feel like everything around you is against you, the pressure, the criticism, the isolation. But what you don't realize is that this fight is confirmation of your calling. The devil doesn't attack people walking in circles. He attacks people walking in purpose. So if you're in a fight right now, it's because you're carrying something hell can't afford to let you deliver. You're on the verge of stepping into something powerful, and the enemy knows it. That's why the warfare has been so intense, the confusion so heavy, the pain so deep, because he knows once you rise, there's no going back. The attacks around you are not there to prove you're losing. They're there to prove you're chosen. The enemy wouldn't be this loud if heaven wasn't about to move this big. Every obstacle, every sleepless night, every tear is evidence that your spirit has something the enemy fears. You are a walking threat to darkness, and that's why the pressure feels relentless, because the power inside you is unstoppable. There comes a moment in every storm when the noise becomes deafening. The thunder roars, the waves crash, and fear tries to grip your soul. You can feel the chaos pressing in from every direction. It's in those moments that your faith is truly tested, because faith isn't proven when everything is calm, it's proven when the storm is loud. That's when you must decide whether to let fear speak louder than your faith or to silence the noise by standing firm in what you know to be true. The storm is real, but so is your authority. Here's the hook. You cannot control the wind, but you can control your voice. You may not be able to calm the storm immediately, but you can command your spirit to stay still within it. Your faith was never meant to be silent. It was meant to speak. When everything inside you wants to panic, that's when you have to open your mouth and declare peace. You can't think your way out of fear. You have to speak your way out. Faith is voice activated. It moves mountains, shifts atmospheres, and breaks chains the moment it's declared. When the storm starts to roar, your faith has to roar louder. The problem is most people let fear narrate their story. They repeat what they see instead of what they believe. They speak defeat while praying for victory. But words carry power. Every word you release becomes a seed that shapes your future. You can't declare defeat and expect to live in destiny. You can't speak fear and walk in freedom. The same mouth that confesses faith cannot simultaneously empower doubt. That's why it's crucial to guard your language in the middle of your storm. When life gets chaotic, silence becomes sacred. You must learn to silence the voices of fear, anxiety, and doubt that echo in your mind. The storm will always try to convince you that it's bigger than the one who controls it. But remember, the storm doesn't get the final word. You do. Every time fear whispers, "You're not going to make it," respond, "I'm built for this." When doubt says, "This is too hard," answer, "I can do all things through strength that's not my own." The moment you speak truth, fear begins to lose its grip. Faith is not denial of reality, it's defiance of defeat. It looks the storm in the face and says, "You may surround me, but you will not sink me." Faith doesn't wait for the storm to pass, it stands in the rain and declares victory. The reason storms seem louder sometimes is because you've forgotten that your voice carries divine authority. You've been equipped to speak peace into chaos, healing into pain, light into darkness. But that power only activates when you use it. You don't need to have all the answers to speak faith. You just need the courage to declare hope in uncertainty. When you feel like your world is falling apart, remind yourself that your words create your world. Speak faith over your future, even if your present doesn't match it yet. Speak life over what looks dead. Speak peace over what feels broken. Your words are not empty. They carry spiritual weight. Heaven moves when faith is spoken. The reason your faith must be louder than the storm is because storms feed off fear. The moment you let fear dominate your thoughts, it begins to control your direction. Fear will always exaggerate the size of the storm and minimize the strength of your God. It whispers worst-case scenarios, paints false pictures, and paralyzes your progress. But when you raise your voice in faith, you remind the atmosphere who's really in charge. You shift from victim to victor. When waves are crashing and winds are screaming, your calm becomes your weapon. The louder the storm, the quieter your spirit must become. Faith doesn't panic, it perceives. It recognizes that what looks like destruction is often direction. It sees beyond the chaos to the purpose hidden within it. Faith doesn't need all the details. It just needs the conviction that no storm lasts forever. There's power in what you say while the storm is raging. When you declare peace, you release authority. When you speak life, you breathe hope into hopeless places. The storm may roar, but it cannot outlast a believer who refuses to bow to fear. Every time you speak faith, you remind the storm that it's temporary, but your purpose is eternal. And though the wind may howl and the rain may pour, your voice of faith can still command calm in the middle of it all. There are seasons in life when everything feels like it's crashing down. The dreams you once held close seem distant. The people you relied on are gone, and the pain feels too heavy to carry. In moments like these, it's easy to assume the storm came to destroy you. But what if the storm that tried to break you was actually sent to announce you? What if the very thing you thought was meant to end you was actually the platform that would elevate you? Sometimes the greatest introductions in destiny come disguised as the hardest interruptions in life. Here's the hook. Every storm has a voice. It's either going to echo fear or announce your faith. And the choice of what it declares depends on how you respond. When you choose to keep standing, keep believing, and keep fighting through the pain, the storm that tried to bury you becomes the proof that you were built to rise. Every drop of rain, every clap of thunder, every night you cried yourself to sleep becomes a testimony that you made it through what was meant to destroy you. The storm doesn't silence you, it strengthens your story. What most people don't understand is that God often uses storms as a stage. You've been praying for promotion, for impact, for purpose. But before he can elevate you, he must prove you. The storm is the proving ground. It reveals what comfort hides. When everything is calm, no one sees what you're made of. But when everything falls apart and you still stand, that's when heaven and earth take notice. The strength that storms build in you becomes the evidence that you're ready for what's next. Pain is not the end, it's the beginning of a new version of you. The fire you walked through refined you. The waves you faced shaped you. And the winds that howled against you developed the strength you didn't know you had. You are stronger because of what you survived. You have a voice now because of what tried to silence you. Every scar you carry is not a mark of defeat, it's a medal of endurance. You went through hell and came out carrying heaven's authority. When storms hit, they don't just shake your environment, they shift your identity. You can't go through that kind of breaking and come out the same. You walk differently, you think differently, you pray differently. You start seeing the world through the eyes of someone who knows what survival feels like. The storm stripped away your illusion of control, but it also revealed the power of your faith. And now that faith is unshakable, not because you never faced pain, but because you faced it and still stood tall. Think about how storms operate in nature. After the thunder, the lightning, and the chaos, the air is cleaner, the sky is clearer, and the ground is refreshed. The destruction makes room for new growth. The same is true for your life. The chaos cleared your path. The breaking made space for becoming. You thought you lost everything, but what you really lost were the things that couldn't survive your next season. The storm removed the unnecessary so your destiny could finally breathe. Here's what most people miss. Storms don't destroy the strong, they reveal them. You never know how resilient you are until you're forced to stand in the rain. And when you do, when you refuse to bow, when you hold your peace, when you stay faithful despite the pain, your endurance becomes your announcement. People who once doubted you begin to see that your strength was real. Those who left you in the middle of the storm will watch from a distance as you rise from what was meant to drown you. The storm becomes your spotlight, not because you wanted attention, but because God uses survival as a stage for his glory. You don't need to tell the world what you've overcome. Your peace after the storm will speak louder than words. The same voices that gossiped about your breakdown will be forced to witness your breakthrough. Every time the storm hit harder, heaven was positioning you higher. Every time life tried to break you, purpose was being built in you. The pain didn't come to end your story, it came to give it power. The storm that came to knock you down is the same one that lifted you up. The tears watered the soil of your destiny. The pressure created the foundation for your purpose. And though it hurt, Though it stretched you beyond what you thought you could handle, the storm was never your enemy. It was your announcement, a divine declaration that your time to rise had finally come.